What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Flip Side, a Get Your Teach On podcast where we break down, share, and challenge flip perspectives and insights on different hot topics in education. Thank you for being here for another Monday episode. We are super excited about this one today. We have our good friend Leonard Galloway back here in the podcast studio talking about a topic that you all requested for us to discuss. I get a lot of DMs oftentimes about different requirements on certifications from a state-by-state perspective. Well, what do you think about this? How do you feel about this? And so today we are breaking it all down, and we are talking about certification requirements, too much or too little, as well as seeing a huge shift in licensing and emergency certifications across many districts in many states. So yeah, we're gonna get into what we've done to educate ourselves on this, as well as what we think that you could benefit from when you are trying to respond to those certain decisions in education. So we can't wait to chat with Leonard today on The Flip Side.
Okay, disclaimer for this episode, if I'm talking
He wouldn't even tell me what it was.
Or weird, disclaimer.
Oh, you don't know what this one is?
No.
See, I cover my ears for all of these because I want to know in the moment. So I'm
most of them we do know.
Disclaimer before we even start, if I'm talking weird or with a lisp, it's because I full on burnt my tongue yesterday. I ordered a grilled cheese, which, you know, I love a good grilled cheese.
Yes, you
and
do.
tomato basil soup.
You love that, both
and,
of those.
Have you ever eaten the soup and just like too hot, too fast, and like fully burnt your tongue?
Absolutely.
That is happening.
It's
So
the
I'm
worst.
literally like through my teeth. But that is not where we're starting this conversation off. But that is the disclaimer for this episode. If it sounds like I have like a lot of
lisp?
saliva in my mouth, yeah, it's because I
Ew,
burnt my tongue
disgusting.
'Cause you do.
fully. But we're gonna push through. But I want to talk about the grilled cheese, number one, because on the menu it said world's best grilled cheese. So
Everybody has the world's
grilled
best.
cheese. I love a good
But
grilled cheese.
everybody says that about their
Add
grilled
a tomato.
grilled cheese, and it's bread and cheese.
Correct.
Wait, let's
But
listen to what he-
it was 100% not the best grilled cheese in the world. It was actually pretty terrible. Like I drowned it in the soup just to get through.
Wait, was it from the hotel?
Yes, it was hotel room service. So I thought it would be great. It was fast. It was just awful. But so I started looking up, okay, what are the best types of cheeses for grilled cheese?
Oh, snap.
And there's a top 5 actually of top 5 cheeses you should include in grilled cheese.
I feel like this is Buddy. Remember Buddy the Elf took, what's her name? Joni for her a date
In Elf.
to an elf to world's best cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So
Okay.
first of all, what type of cheese would you put in your grilled cheese sandwich if you had to make it? Because I know you do make a mean grilled cheese.
Kraft Singles American. Like, you got to butter that bread. and
Not
it's
on the
just-
list. Kraft Singles American, not on the list of the
Yeah,
top 5
gross.
for the best cheeses for grilled cheese.
My favorite type
Cheese
of
toast. Oh, that Kraft
Yeah,
American.
tell me.
My
Okay.
favorite type of cheese is any type of sharp cheddar cheese. Like I love sharp cheese.
Okay, sharp cheddar is in the top 3 for overall best cheeses.
I know it is.
But it does not make the top 5 for grilled cheeses.
I'm just a simple girl. I don't require.
You want just Kraft. Okay.
Mozzarella.
It is.
Yes!
It's in the top 3.
Say it.
Mozzarella.
I got mozzarella.
I know. I say they always make fun of me because I say it like that.
No, I do not.
But
I want to learn how to say it
I know.
correctly.
The other day,
Italian
Maverick
from New York.
Mozzarella.
Maverick
Yes.
was sitting
Mozzarella.
on the couch, and I come to him and I walk past him. I said, "What are you eating?" He goes, "Mozzarella."
Exactly. We just forget the last A. I don't know if that's like an actual Italian thing or just like Brooklyn Italians that
No,
like,
it's
we don't
real.
have time to do it.
It's
But
real.
mozzarella, it's not mozzarella.
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 Yeah. So that is in the top 3 of best
So I
grilled
got
cheeses.
2 of the 3.
And I have never seen that in a grilled cheese actually.
Sharp.
what about-
I'll do sharp cheddar all day.
Okay.
Okay,
ahead.
what about provolone?
Provolone
Burr.
is in the top 5. Correct. There you go. Of grilled cheeses.
What about Swiss?
Not in the top 5.
American cheddar.
Not in the top
Munster.
5. Cheddar. Cheddar is. So cheddar cheese is number 1. Number 2, Monterey Jack, which I do kind of agree. It has a little like
I don't know
a
Monterey
little
like
taste.
that.
Mozzarella, obviously. Number 4, pepper jack cheese.
I love pepper jack, but not
A
on
little-
a
No,
not
that's
on
like
a
a unique taste. That's not a grilled
yeah, not on a grilled
Oh,
cheese.
they want
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
This is like legit research here. It's rank.com.
I like
So
that.
that is like That's got to be legitimate there. And then provolone rounds it out at number 5. So if you're wondering, top 5 best cheeses for your grilled cheese sandwich.
I think provolone.
There you go.
I think provolone is just on there for like the texture because it's like thick and it's just
Like
not really
stringy?
the taste. Yeah, it's not the taste for provolone.
There you go. But let us know, tag us. What do you put in your grilled cheese? If you have any secrets, let me know. I just love a good classic.
We are talking about voting today, so maybe they should vote.
Garlic butter Texas toast with some of those cheeses would be.
I'm a simple, like white toast.
All grilled cheeses taste the same to me. And if
They
you have,
do not. All grilled cheeses are not created equal. That is a lie.
I don't eat bread or
That
sandwiches.
is a lie.
So I'm not a connoisseur, so
They all
I'll
taste
leave that
the
up.
same to me.
But regardless, we'll leave that up to the viewers to decide their favorite grilled cheese. But let's dive into today's episode on The Flip Side. All right, we are back with the man himself, Mr. Leonard Galloway. He joined us on a previous episode. If you didn't check that one out, make sure you go back because it was an incredible conversation all about what can we do to really amp up what we're doing for new teachers, veteran teachers, and shaping the conversation around that. But this topic today, and Leonard said this again, he said this last time too, yeah, that's hot. That's hot. But this was actually requested by you
Sizzling.
all, which is amazing. And this is going to be all about teacher certification. Now, we know many of us went to school for education, graduated, became certified. That is not the path for many teachers today. A lot of teachers are getting a job and then finding out certification along the way, maybe through AltCert or different programs like that. Many states and across the nation are increasing certification requirements for teachers who are already maybe certified and are needing new things for maybe the science of learning, or new things for a reading endorsement, or new things for a gifted endorsement, or new things for special education, and are adding on to certification requirements. But yet, we are finding that there are many gaps in hiring with teachers and things like that. So today's topic is going to be all about, and this is a request from you all, teacher certification. Are the requirements, are there too many, or are maybe they're not enough? And what are we seeing in education and how that's impacting not only hiring, but students and what that looks like and overall teacher morale? If certification requirements increase, are teachers upset about it? What is happening there? If there are too few requirements, how is that impacting students? So Leonard, I'm going to kind of start things off on the hiring perspective. Okay. We know right now in education, and coming from an assistant superintendent point of view, well, actually, if they didn't,
if they didn't hit the last one, right? Yeah, I was going to say.
Let's start there. So introduce yourself.
You got to give the credentials.
That's right.
For them to listen to you.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. Give them the resume first before we dive in. I was just so excited for it.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, Chris. I'm Leonard Galloway from Anderson, South Carolina, assistant superintendent here in this school district. That's been very great for me. I love kids. I do. That's my impact. That's my go-to. That is what keeps me going. That's my why. Every opportunity I've had, from a classroom teacher to assistant principal to a principal to whatever, it always been, how can I make the lives of the students better? Even in my current role as HR, before I move to my next one, I'm able to impact hiring from bus drivers, custodians, food service, and teachers as well. And each one that has a paycheck from that school district, their purpose should be, how can I make the lives of our students better? Whether it's preparing them a nice meal, making sure that the schools are clean, making sure that the grounds are taken care of, and making sure they're getting a teacher in front of them every day that's going to put 100% in their instruction. That has been my why, and I'm very appreciative of it.
So if you missed how I was about to say,
go
you missed
ahead,
how Leonard
boo-boo.
and Wade became besties, and how Leonard became his ultimate
Watch the
hero.
previous episode. Watch the previous episode. So we
The
can
previous
stay on time
episode
on
with
this one.
Leonard.
Yeah,
go back
on
and find
Leonard.
his episode.
Yeah.
And it was
Wow.
about best practices versus curriculum.
Yeah.
So that was the focus.
Well, I was going to say, it doesn't matter if you do want to work in a school district like Anderson 5 and work for someone like Leonard, you absolutely can.
Yeah,
right.
and can we get a shout out
Exactly.
for the socks, Leonard?
Oh, yes,
I
sir.
mean, I'm just looking. Wait, is that wood sock? Yeah, we got some peanuts on there.
Look at that.
The muesli notes. There we go. Oh, we got to. It looks like we got to zoom in there. If you're watching at
yeah,
home,
I'm sorry.
you'll have to check it out on YouTube for the full version of that. There we go. There we go. So fun.
Anyway.
But Leonard, I want to talk about just from hiring. What are you seeing now in education? And even just in the last year, or even in the last few years, what is the difference in kind of open positions when it comes to teaching positions? Who are you seeing apply? What are you seeing the most need for from a
Trends.
district kind of, trends from a district kind of point of view?
I'll tell you this, I can recall being in the classroom, and every year you have to sign a contract. We used to get, and the state law says your contract has to be signed by May 10th.
Right.
Okay.
So we probably wouldn't send out our contracts till maybe the end of April.
Okay.
we sent out contracts this year at the end of winter, around February.
Wow.
We started the process then, and then because we need the plan, we sent out.
I remember we only had maybe a week or two to sign our contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We sent out intent forms when we came back from Thanksgiving break, so we can start planning now because we have.
You need to know.
We need to know exactly. Now, granted, they're not. They can on their intent forms they can put their coming back, but that doesn't necessarily hold them to anything because it's not a contract.
Right.
But it does allow us for those folks who know they're not coming back. If they were to choose that they're not coming back, we can go ahead and post that position because I'm competing. I mean, this district competing against other districts.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we're competing against other industries as well. We have nurses who are being enticed by hospitals and things of that nature. Right. Now, I believe that Anderson School District 5 and all our school districts are great places to work. Ideal in regard, especially if you have a child that's in education, your schedule can match up with them. But it's not just us competing against other districts; it's competing against other industries. But in regards to the certified folks coming in, the amount of people going into college programs, education programs and colleges has declined tremendously.
Yeah.
We have a lot of folks who are retiring. More folks are retiring than folks who are coming in.
Yeah.
And that is
some colleges have gotten rid of their teacher colleges altogether.
I heard that a while back, and it really is sad. So how are we going to make this work? How are we going to ensure that there's somebody teaching our kids every day?
Yeah.
We've been fortunate enough to bring in different types of things, such as go back to our retired folks. You can retire, then come back and get your retirement and earn additional money, get your full salary. But then we also push forward with our within our district. We have assistants who can go to college for free. We're vouch for them and give them their books and their tuition and whatnot. And then while they're working for Anderson School District 5, they can work on their degree, come back and teach for us as well. But we also have alternative pathways folks or alternative certification folks who have never taken a class in college for education, but they've decided, hey, I've been called to teach. And so they go through. South Carolina has something called PACE. We have Teachers of Tomorrow, which is, of course, not just a South Carolina thing. We also have American Board. There are others as well. As a matter of fact, within our district, we're trying to work with local districts to have our own alternative certification program because we have other districts within the state who's doing that. Said all that to say this is that we're definitely looking outside of the box to ensure that our kids have teachers in there that's going to teach them.
To teach.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I love how you said that. There's so many different things, and I can relate to this. Like I said, this topic is from you all, and I'm going to let Hope kind of give a background of the story of where this submission came from the listener who kind of submitted this. But I can relate to this in Florida because I was the first graduating class. I went to UCF, Go Knights in Orlando, and the also
only
black
one in
and
the
gold.
room.
Also black and gold. We can have that in common.
Okay, we can relate on that.
We can do black and gold.
Knight wears armor. Trojan, we wear armor.
Sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We get along fine.
We'll
It's great.
take it.
It's fine.
Whatever.
It's okay. My feelings are not hurt on that. I was the first graduating class to graduate with our reading and ESOL at the time, now ELL endorsements from our college certification program. So going into the teaching field, I already had those. Fast forward 2 years, all the veteran teachers I was working with had new certification requirements that they had to be reading endorsed and have that ELL endorsement within a certain amount of time. They had to go back and do all these different hoops, certifications, classes, extra coursework. I'm a brand new fresh teacher out of college. Luckily, I graduated with that from some additional coursework in college because they knew it was coming. But now teachers throughout the state of Florida, all these veteran teachers were putting in, when I say hours and hours of coursework. They had to do all these online things. There was like a 5-part series at one point for this to get these additional endorsements, or they would no longer be allowed to renew their certificate and teach, but yet we still have empty classrooms. So I could easily relate to this and I know this is more common state by state, but Hope, I'm gonna let you kind of give where this kind of came from the viewer without giving specifics, but why is this such a big problem right now that we're increasing certification, but yet we have no one filling positions in the classrooms?
Well, I think it's creating a lot of angry teachers.
Yes, that too.
And it's not, and obviously these decisions are made on a state-by-state basis, but it's creating a lot of angry teachers. And, when I'm just going to be really honest. When I was a teacher in the classroom, I give a care less. I was told what to do. I mean, now granted, like I said, I would do what was best for kids, but I'm not really looking to, well, who created this law and who said
Yeah,
that
I
we
was
should
really
do that? I was
neither.
like,
Yeah.
whatever.
It is what it is.
Basically, everything was my
Yeah.
principal's fault. To
That's
be
right, of course.
to be honest.
And then you just got over it. Like it wasn't even
Yeah.
like a
That's right.
petty thing.
That was
I
the
don't
higher
get it.
up to me, my principal.
I was
So
like,
they came
okay.
from my friend, you know.
Which do not take things out on your administrators. It is not their fault.
not.
Disclaimer.
No,
And I
and that's what we're
didn't.
saying.
It is not their
We were
fault.
just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it is.
But I was like, it is what it is, you know. And so I wasn't trying to research like, sorry, I just got my hair.
Centipede. Leonard, if you don't know,
What's that?
listen, a
There's a
few episodes.
centipede
We have a
plague in the-
centipede.
If you haven't seen them,
all
No, I
over.
haven't.
I
We'll
would
take
say
you on the centipede
infestation,
tour.
but it is
Like-
it is a problem.
anyways, so all of that to
actually
say,
a
when I was a
problem.
new teacher, I did not care where laws were written for education, why I had to have certifications, why I didn't, et cetera, et cetera. I was just trying to teach my kids.
That's right.
Right.
All she knew about laws was, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. That's
I don't
it.
even think.
And I'm sitting here
you
on
knew that song.
Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I know.
What's that from?
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes.
I know it.
Yes, I know you
Oh,
know.
oh, oh.
Gracious.
Wait, I
sakes.
know this because we do a workshop, or I listen to your music workshop where you
Oh,
talk about it, okay? So I know this. But regardless, I was just worried about teaching my kids. And so now I'm seeing, especially as we're able to work across the nation, and we see how different states operate, whether they're union heavy, whether they're not. Like there's so many different factors that go into it. And I see so many teachers getting angry at certain situations, and rightfully so. So I'm not saying that teachers should not be angry or questioning why or questioning certain things, because at the end of the day, it impacts the teacher.
That's right.
But I will say that I have done a lot of learning in this new journey that I have been on in education for the past, 7-8 years, where I have traveled around the nation. I have met with higher ups. I have met with state level leaders. I have met with district leaders. I have met with school leaders, because now I'm trying to put the puzzle pieces together, because we serve teachers.
That's right.
So I've got to be fully educated on all aspects to be able to help them make the best decisions too. And so kind of where this came from is, as we're watching states make different policies and laws for certification requirements specifically, even I've had in the back of my mind, why would you do that when I know that your state is operating at a high percentages of emergency certifications? Why would you ever put this in place now? Or why would you do it like this when you know this is going to be the outcome and teachers are going to be angry, which is going to cause more teachers to leave when we already have a teacher shortage? And I really had to stop trying to pinpoint it on one person.
Point the finger,
Right,
right.
and point the finger and really educate myself on, how do these things even come into existence? And when I tell you that when I started looking into this and understanding how laws are made when it comes to education, when it comes to, we'll talk about certification specifically, especially now as our nation shifts to this push for science of reading, right? Because we're seeing this obviously deficit when it comes to student reading and comprehension. But again, this is something we're seeing as a pattern or trend nationwide. And what I quickly learned is that there are a lot of people who are receiving a finger point. How dare you? And while they have incredible influence, they have no power or authority to actually create.
That's right. That's right.
And so really how this works, and this is why voting is so important,
Yes,
and
that's right.
vote, and why, a lot of people are like, well, voting, and I even have my own personal feelings sometimes about voting. Well, does it really matter? Well, does it really? And that's my privilege speaking, and I fully understand that. So I've had to relearn and educate myself on a lot. But really, all of these laws are made by legislatures who spend zero, if any, time in the classroom.
That's right.
Who, and I'm not pointing and saying every legislature, but a lot of their kids are in private schools or different situations or are homeschooled. They haven't spent time to know the ins and outs of schools. They make these laws and put them in place and put them in action. Then the people below them are required for carrying them out
carry them out. That's
and
right.
communicating how we follow.
That's right.
And so I think
And
that
putting out the fires of the consequences
Yes.
of
The legislation.
what's happening when they really weren't involved with it in the first place.
And again,
That's
this
right.
is a state by state basis, but I just think that teachers will find so much empowerment and maybe not as much frustration when they are actually educated on where these laws are coming from, who's actually writing these laws, and then who's actually carrying them out.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
And so that's kind of where this came from is, from different states, a lot of people were having different legislation passed and they were reaching out. What do you think about this? Well, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think about what this state is saying? What do you think? And that's where as a team, we really had to deep dive into each state and say, well, let's understand this process because I can't answer that question because I could easily say, how dare your fill in the blank do that to you? Just the same way that I want you to say, how dare my principal?
Yeah.
Even though my
The
principal is
principals.
literally the leader that's just bringing the message of how this is supposed to be carried through. Now, again, it's going to look different for building to building, but I think it's just so important, especially at this time in education when we are honestly in a crisis of filling classrooms with certified teachers, that we understand how these laws are.
I guess where I want to go with it first is just minute, and then we get to the big thing. When Leonard, so in your position, if you do have a school that oh my goodness, we're going to be short on teachers.
That's right.
What is in your mind, what is your first go to? Like, what are you thinking?
A couple of things I do. Like, if I knew right now, I would we have a great relationship with our local colleges: Anderson University, Clemson University, Lander, all these local
Also,
colleges.
Leonard's got some phenomenal colleges
That's right.
right here in his pocket, okay?
That's right, exactly.
Come on.
AU alum,
Yes,
Clemson
that's
alum,
right, that's right.
here. So
I mean,
you got
Lander's a
pocket
great
of-
university.
That's right.
Furman, all
So
of
that's gonna be my first thing,
Okay.
Yeah.
because we have some folks who have not received a job yet. Our biggest thing right now is SPED. I mean, that's across the district. So look, there are some places or some programs out there that can sort of help fill in those services. So, but if I knew somebody we had an opening, I'm reaching out to my retired folks. And that's, some folks love retirement. Matter of fact, a lot of folks love retirement.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but we'll get there. But then it may even come down, unfortunately, on day one, it may be a situation where we have to close down a classroom and split the class. That's never ideal because we know
How often
that
does that happen?
it doesn't happen too often, but it has
Okay.
happened.
Yeah.
But as we're increasing student-teacher ratio, then that is going to impact learning. And who wants that to happen? We've had some administrators in our some of our districts to go and teach a classroom during a planning period, during a period of time. For instance, we have a teacher who's on maternity leave. Well, we have a hard time finding a certified teacher to fill
A
that
lot of
position.
teachers are talking about having to fill empty classrooms
Yes.
during their planning and prep time.
Now, we will pay them extra. We'll pay them, and that doesn't happen too often.
You do? So where do you get those funds from?
So a variety of ways. We could use those funds for just long-term,
Got it.
substitutes. The
yeah.
district to pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah, the district pick it up. But that doesn't happen often. But sometimes we have situations like that where somebody has we need to fill 3 blocks of classes. Somebody who has a planning period during the first block, they can go and teach it. We'll pay them and do the same for the rest of those periods. That's never ideal because ultimately our teachers, and it's volunteer basis too.
Yeah.
So we're not forcing teachers to do it either.
Yeah.
But that's better than having a long-term sub who is not certified.
Yeah.
So there are ways around it, not necessarily ideal. We don't like to be placed in those positions because those students need someone who's going to be with them consistently, somebody that's certified. So the whole certification piece, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I do think there needs to be some common sense with it as well.
Yeah.
I think that we do not need to steer folks away from it. At the same time, we don't want to put people in the classroom who are not properly skilled, who do not have everything they need in their toolbox in order to teach their kids. So we want to make sure that kids or teachers are not leaving the profession because of unnecessary measures that we place on them. When you stated earlier that folks are not even that some colleges are closing down college of education programs, that's very concerning. It's very concerning because I don't see that necessarily getting better.
Right.
So
Right.
we need to make sure that we have the right people at the table.
Yeah.
Legislators need to be there, obviously, because they're gonna but we need to make sure we have our teachers there too.
Yeah.
Make sure we have our administrators there, our superintendents and things of that nature. Because if you're not in what I've stated in our other podcasts, if you're not in the classroom every day, then you don't necessarily know what's going on in there.
That's right.
So I think it's very important that we remain in tune with the everyday going on of our students in our classroom.
And while you would hope that, legislatures and those that would, if they're not going to be in the classrooms, they would at least listen to teachers.
Listen, that's what
That's
at
not,
least listen to them.
Unfortunately, that is
Nothing
not
wrong
the
with that.
case.
Yeah.
And I think that, while educating and understanding how these certification requirements come to be
That's right.
is helpful knowledge so that we're not pinpointing. And again, one of the things about this podcast is we're trying to unify
That's right.
education.
That's right.
The people who are actually game changers
That's right,
in education,
exactly.
right? And not dividing. And if we're not educated on how these certification requirements come to be, it can be very divisive because you might be pointing the finger at the wrong person.
That's right.
Whereas a lot of times, 99% of the times, it goes straight back to legislation,
Yes.
who may or may not be spending time in the classrooms and or listening to actual
Exactly.
real life educators. The point of that is, then if that is what we know is happening, we have to recognize that is out of our control. And that is one of the places where the system is broken. So if we can't change the system, we have to change what we can within our power, which is impacting the people.
That's right. That's
So-
right.
Yeah, I mean, just even going off of that, I mean, all of those hiccups come along, and you're navigating those situations with trying to fill these empty classrooms, all of those things. Let's say that a new certification or a piece of legislation is passed down to the district, and you guys receive that, and you know, oh my gosh, these teachers are tired, they're exhausted. How do you navigate that? Because it's something that, I mean, it's a law.
Yeah,
So you
that's
got to
right. You
carry
gotta
it,
do it. That's
whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah.
So
How do you
I don't
navigate
know. I
that?
think it's,
Leonard, you mean you don't write all those
I
little
know.
words?
I know.
So I'm sure so many people have gotten mad at
Spoiler
you
alert.
for things that you didn't even do. You know?
They have. But, you know, I think it's so important. The messaging is very important. It's how you. If they understand the importance. If a bill, I'm hoping, I'm putting trust in our legislators. They're not just making bills just to be making bills.
Right.
Hopefully there's some type of impact. Matter of fact, we have our teachers have to complete in our state Read to Succeed. Obviously, the purpose is to increase reading proficiency.
I think
amongst
every
our
state's
students.
got something
Every
along
state.
those
So-
lines right
Yeah,
now. Yep.
but unfortunately, I mean, there are some things that you have to do in order. So many hours. So if they can see what the purpose is, and especially if the folks who have created this legislation, created this way of completing the certificate, have done a homework, and that is not just busy work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes it can be seen as busy work. I'm doing because a lot of our teachers do these things outside their school hours.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, we allot them planning periods, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to
They
do
can't
it
get it
because they
done
probably
by-
need to plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So and then we have Tuesday afternoon service meetings and things of that nature. But again, we have to continue with school while they're also tackling on other things. So it's a part of the message. If they can see that, you know, we are actually doing this, or this legislation has been passed in order to benefit the students, and not just to be a checklist, and I think that's going to be beneficial. There are a lot of things I told my teachers, whether it was for safety reasons or
Yeah.
changing the schedules, that, you know, as a principal, that, you know, folks get very comfortable in the schedule. Or, you know what? No, they really
Routine.
get comfortable in the classroom.
Yeah.
When you have to, that's the worst thing you can do as a principal is change somebody's classroom that they've been in there for 15 years.
Oh, boy.
But it's all about the messaging. If they can see the
Yeah.
purpose and you're not just doing it just to get at them, then I think they
Yeah.
will swallow it and, you know, move forward.
And I think it also falls onto us as teachers in the reaction, because I know when something first comes out, it's first introduced,
That's right.
it's uproar, right?
It's chaos.
Everyone, it's social media,
that's easy.
all my friends,
Yeah.
it's chaos. When really, if you look in the fine tune, is it going to be an inconvenience? Probably.
Yeah.
Is it more work than you wanted to do? Probably. But
yeah.
long term, you probably have maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years,
That's right.
sometimes even 5 years
That's
to
right.
complete this over amount of
Yes,
time.
yes.
And it's sometimes we kind of just need to bite our tongue and say, okay, there's a difference between using your voice and being proactive, or nothing is going to change here. I need to just get it done. So I can either
done.
carry this with me every single day.
That's right.
Post about how terrible this is, use your voice and do that. Or I can say, you know what, this is what I have to do. Or there are other
Yes.
options.
That's
I mean,
right.
I'm
It is.
gonna catch flack for this. So go ahead and send me the hateful DMs.
Oh,
whoever.
boy. Oh, boy. I can't.
And the D.
Listen, after the year 2020, I can pretty much take anything. Okay.
Yes.
But you know, here's the thing, and I think that, and I never want to say put something additional on a teacher's plate, but at the end of the day, it's a reality of becoming better. It's a reality of enhancing your craft. I'm sorry, but whatever doctor I go to, they better be continuing
you are right about
education
And they
on their
always are.
certification.
And they always are
They
studying.
better be up to date
That is
on
true.
what. And yes, we can get into doctors make more
Doctors
money
get
than
paid,
teachers.
whatever.
Stop.
Yeah, duh.
You knew what your salary
That's
was
right.
going to be when you chose to be an educator.
That's
At
right.
some point, that's a full stop moment
right.
as an educator that we all have to say to ourselves is, I didn't get into this money or into this profession to make the money of a doctor.
right. Yeah.
But just like a doctor has to stay up to date on their craft and thank God they do, or we'd all be dead.
That's right.
Right?
So do
the
we.
same thing is true of teachers. And so now listen, there are many things I disagree with how those laws are written, why the people that are writing them aren't in the classroom spending. There's a lot, again, about the system.
And even some of the delivery, too.
And even some
the
of the
delivery,
delivery.
we can all agree,
That's right.
is not the best.
We
delivery.
can
It's
disagree
some
with
online
most
course that you can click through or things, but there
But
is
to your
information.
point,
Yeah, there
to your
is.
point,
It's delivered.
If the end game, because speaking about reading, there's many states right now that is their number one priority is to increase their literacy rates and efficiency within their learners. Wouldn't we all agree that the end game that every kid can read by third grade? Wouldn't we agree that we would want that to be the end game, right? So if a state or states, because again, this is a nationwide thing that many states are doing, if that is the end game, sometimes we have to say, okay, even if I don't like who's writing it,
That's right.
and I don't like how it was delivered
That's
to me,
right.
in the end, if this means an increase in student success,
Kids could be better because of it.
I'm going to increase my certification.
That's right.
And so again, I'm not saying to add a teacher's plate, and I'm not saying there's things that we shouldn't side eye, and I'm not saying there's things that shouldn't frustrate us. But also, it's a part of any profession.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a part of any job.
Yeah, I remember, and I'm sure a lot of teachers can relate, when Leonard was saying covering other teachers' classes, doing that. When my co-teacher, Nikki, and I, we were teaching third grade at the time, coaching half the day, teaching half the day, and there was a second grade room on the other side of the school that was on their fourth teacher of the year, not certified, sub after sub after sub, high turnover. We had to literally swap classes in the middle of the hallway. We would pick up from lunch, drop off from lunch. We would trade places, and we would teach the opposite block for the day to, one, continue to have our class. And that, it could have been easy to be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. Shout about. We made it work. You just make it work. Like there are things that you have to make work. We are in less than ideal circumstances in a number of different factors within our profession. And it's kind of the narrative that we share about it that's going to cause the impact. That's is really there.
Because all the energy and hate that you spend on trying to point the finger is not going to change.
And it's not even that person. It's not even that person.
Or the credentials.
They probably
It's
don't
really
even
not.
know.
Or the
No,
requirements.
Either.
the job.
And so again, I think then it's okay, how do I manage this the best that I can?
That's right.
And use it to actually benefit me. Because if you're getting benefit out of it, then it's worth it. But some people spend so much time being mad that they're like, I've heard teachers say, I'm going to do the certification and I'm not even going to use it. That's your own fault.
right.
And that's only harming you and only wasting your time. And then it's only harming your students because of your bad attitude. So again, sometimes we just have to recognize that even in education, there's going to be
There is.
additional certifications required.
I mean, and humans are humans, and humans are going to mess up. They're never going to be perfect. And so the way it's decided upon, it's never going to be right for everybody. The way it's delivered is not going to be right for everybody. But we also have to understand there's a lot of things we don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't need to point the fingers at people.
Or if you're mad, send it to the right place of the decision makers. Like that's what, otherwise you're wasting your time being mad at the wrong person because they can't do anything about it anyway.
And then vote too.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you know,
That part.
So then when looking at, again, certifications, whether it's too much or too little, and we're looking at teachers, that causes an increase in, teachers potentially leaving the profession, which leads a higher deficit of empty classrooms. Again, it is no stranger to any state to be operating on some emergency certifications, or here in South Carolina, it's called
Alternative
certifications.
Yep.
I think the next thing that I just want to chat a little bit about is when we do find ourselves in schools that have either, whether it be a small or large percentage of emergency certifications, how do we, as the certified educators, the veteran educators, how do we best support these teachers, especially if there's not something from the top down that is that support system? Because at the end of the day, we want good schools.
That's right. I mean, it starts with a great mentor. I mean, in the mentor, in our district, we have a mentor not only within the school building, but we have one across a district level, and we call it induction coach, but basically a mentor coach.
Yeah.
And that's going to be that person that's going to, that you can go to in regards to anything, whether it be how to input grades or how to implement a certain type of lesson, or man, what do I need to park at? I mean, just somebody you can talk to, because again, you have folks who are coming off the street, basically, who have never taught a kid, unless they had their own. But even with that, listen, I tried teaching my kids during COVID. It was awful.
I've just recently started teaching Maverick reading and SOS. Somebody save me.
Yes, I mean, I know we're not trying to go down there, but listen, I can understand some of the frustrations just based off my own kids. What I'm saying is that we need to don't have the impression, we need to be very understanding to them and give them the patience they need, and understand that, my first year teaching, personally, I sucked as a teacher. I really did, especially if you compare it to the last time. Even my first year as a principal, I sucked compared to my last year. Because
as it should be. We'd be concerned if it weren't that way.
Exactly, that's right. But you're continuously growing, you're refining your skills, and that goes back to this whole certification piece. And you compared it to like a doctor. You need to make sure you're getting better. You don't want to get worse.
Yeah.
But going back to alternative certification folks, these are folks who are still. It depends on which program they're going to. They are taking classes and they're trying to teach. And so getting some grace with that. I don't know. We need to support them, because obviously we don't want them to leave.
No, they're in there for a reason.
Yes,
Right.
and within our programs, you have within a certain amount of years to actually get your professional certificate. So, but just making sure that they have everything they need in order to, because having that pedagogy in going through the college program, that's different.
Yeah.
Now, granted, as we mentioned earlier, it hasn't really prepared me. I didn't learn anything about COVID when I was in school.
No.
That wasn't a chapter?
No, unless I skipped school that day.
Why did Harry Long add a chapter about that in this?
That's right. So, I mean, there's so much that you go learn outside of the college, just have that personal experience. But there's a lot of things that you actually do learn within that college system. So just, I don't know. I think we just don't give up on them, because it's going to be hard. They need as much support as they possibly can get, because it's challenging. It is. But within our school district, we pulled them aside. We worked with them individually, in addition to what we do with our regular and first year teachers, and realized that it's going to take a process. It is. The grace that was given to me as a teacher and as an administrator, and not only that, just as a human being, as a person, as a husband, as a father, that grace needs to be given. We can't expect first year teachers, anybody, whether it's alternative certification or just first year teachers, to be veteran teachers. That doesn't happen overnight. They're gonna come with some great ideas. They may even be do a great job in classroom discipline their first year. I don't know, but they're not perfect. And I think that's one of the issues that I come across, is that sometimes we have folks who have those veteran level expectations for first year teachers or second year teachers or third year teachers.
And
it takes a while to get there.
It does, and it goes even back to, we've been discussing just the shifts in generations, and there are generational shifts.
That's right.
We all know the pendulum, how it swings, and all of those things. And I think that, on our last episode, I think we talked a little bit about humility, but even here, this is where it's so important, because I know that we have worked in schools that have, first year teachers, not certified, emergency certifications, and we'll, be assisting in their classroom or helping, and the responses are always, well, I already do all that. And then I'm like, putting on my binoculars, like, where?
I don't know where this comes from, but it's happened.
I can't even tell you how many, across schools, across states.
And their colleagues are looking like they're in the room at the same time. We're in the room with them too, but their colleagues are looking at each other like, that person ain't never done that.
So I think part of it is we've got to have grace, and we can't set them up for that expectation, because then that forces them into that I've got to know everything mentality. And that's creating way more harm than it does good. We need these teachers to come in and, again, authentically be able to show up and say, you know what? And this is where I hope most of them are at. I would say, I know it's not all of them, but I don't know anything about teaching. But I'm a hard worker, and I love kids, and I want to keep them safe, and I want to give them a great space to learn, and I'm going to do my best. I don't know everything. I want to soak in that knowledge from now listen, if you're emergency certification, find the right people. Don't be going to the negative people in the building, because that's going to just make things negative for kids and for you. But I want to soak in everybody's knowledge. I just can't even tell you how, honestly, and this could just be a trend or a pattern with me, but the majority of the emergency certification license that I have worked with, they have had a chip on their shoulder that they already know everything. And I'm like, we fully know well and good that you do not.
That's right.
But if you have the mentality of, I don't know everything, but I'm going to work as hard as I can.
Yes.
You will be incredibly successful
That's right.
in that classroom.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, for teachers who did go to school for this, are in it, have been teaching years, have the experience, I think post-pandemic, we've moved into a me mentality that I'm okay in my room, and what's
That did
outside of my walls
isolate.
is not my problem anymore.
That did
But in
isolate.
reality,
It-
if you're a first grade teacher on emergency certification and you're a fourth grade teacher, that's about to be your problem in about 2 years
Exactly.
if
You're
we
right.
don't reach out and support. So you're not
That's
going to
right.
be able to be there for everyone. You don't have time in the day. You have your own things you need to do. But reaching out to give them that support
That's right.
and bring them in instead of an isolated, that's, wow, I've heard teachers going down the hall, oh my gosh, first grade, there's 3 open jobs, or this is,
Yeah.
well, we need to do something as a school community to do that and kind of move past that me mentality because
That's
it's
right.
all of our students and we want the best for all of our students at the end of the day. So
Yeah, which is why, again,
let's shift
the more that
perspective.
teachers are able to spend time in other classrooms watching and observing, the better the whole profession becomes.
That's right.
But it's a matter of everybody lowering their I don't need that mentality. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs it.
Yep.
Every single one of us sitting in this room needs it. Everybody needs it. We've got to bring a little bit of humility back to the profession of education. You don't have to be a know-it-all. Actually, the know-it-alls are probably the least successful. It's those who are willing to learn from others, I think, that really just shine. They shine.
Yeah. So if you're going through this in your state or you have experienced something like this before, we see you, we hear you.
Yeah.
We will get through this together. Make sure you vote. Go out there. Your local officials are going to be the ones who are going to make the most impact
will.
on
Know
you.
what their educational
And-
policies
exactly.
are.
Know
Yes.
what is happening and change the narrative a little bit. Don't be the first to light the match, start the fire. Know that there is a bigger picture somewhere that we don't even know about. It's out of our
Go to the source. Go to the source and go to the right source. Yeah.
So if you're going to point a finger, make sure that you at least know who you're pointing the finger
Vote
at.
for your board
be-
members.
before
Vote
you
for
do
those
that.
board members. I
Yeah.
think that's that's a great.
Well,
place
that's
to
not
start.
legislation. A lot of choices
That's
and
a great
decisions
place
are
to
made.
start because those
made
board
there, too,
members, those
within
board
that
members know
ecosystem.
those legislators. So
Yeah.
those board members select the good ones.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next Monday with an all new, brand new episode. But for now, we will catch you on the flip side.
Bye, guys.